I'm going to begin by introducing the speakers. I ask you to have a look on the chat and you'll see the full biography. I think all of our speakers are here, so I'm going to kick off almost immediately by introducing the first speaker, and this is Professor Amina Gurib-Fakim, who is the former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Mauritius, and in fact, the 6th Honorable State President of Mauritius, in fact, its first female leader. Professor Gurib is a biodiversity scientist by training. And in fact, she received the Legion of Honor from the government of France in 2017. She's also received both the Lifelong Achievement Award of the United States and the American Botanical Council Norman Farnsworth Excellence in Botanical Research Award. A full biography is available on the chat for all of us. The second speaker today is Professor Teresa Chombe, who's Professor Emeritus and Honorary Dean in the Faculty of Education at the University of Roa in Cameroon. She is also the UNESCO Chair of Special Needs Education and the Director of the Research Center for Child and Family Development and Education. The next speaker is Professor Puleng Lenkabula, who needs no introduction, but I will still take pride in introducing her as the Principal and the Vice Chancellor of the University of South Africa. Prof. Lenkabula is a South African academic and university administrator, and she is the first ever female Vice Chancellor of the University of South Africa. Again, a full biography of Professor Lenkabula is available on the chat. Finally, I'd like to introduce Ms. Palesa Mofokeng. She's a Master's in Educational Technology student at our university and is a lecturer at Rosebank College, the School of Education. She's the co-founder of the EdTech Bridges, a contributor at the Economites, and was elected as an Inside Education Top 100 South African Shining Stars. She's also the WITS SRC academic officer. So ladies, a really warm welcome to each one of you. Thank you for taking time to join me in this webinar this afternoon. And I'm going to hand over to each one of you accordingly. I'm going to kick off with you, Professor Amina. And the floor is over to you at this point. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Friends, this conference comes at an important time to discuss on the needs to recognize the growing importance of education, knowledge, communication revolution, as well as the need to mobilize knowledge, science, technology as major drivers of growth. I remain convinced that strong institution, STI, and quality higher education are prime movers of growth, development, and will continue to play a profound role in advancing knowledge and improving the human condition. In September 2015, as part of its agenda for the next 15 years, the UN adopted the SDGs. Ambitious program as it is, the main challenge will be in transforming the goals into meaningful actions, especially post-COVID. Ladies and gentlemen, sub-Saharan Africa had been one of the world's growing regions. A commodities boom, improved governance, sound macroeconomic fundamentals, commitment to reform, and new resource discoveries have all contributed to the robust growth trend, helping to reverse 20 years of economic decline that began in the 70s and in the 80s. Africa is also the youngest continent in the world. Channeling this increasing reservoir of human capital to productive sectors offer unrivaled economic and social opportunities. Africa's youth bulge offers an unprecedented opportunity that must be harnessed through STEM, vocational skills, and innovation. To take full advantage of them will require skillful management and vision. Priming education offers an unprecedented opportunity as sustained growth is the first of several opportunities. I'm convinced that the social and economic transformations will happen only when higher education, better access to healthcare, and greater emphasis on knowledge become central to the development debate. With online learning, as we have seen recently, that has become a growing source of education. The quality and access to broadband services and the online content must become an African imperative. Ladies and gentlemen, shared growth can be achieved when the new generations of talented and ambitious young Africans are healthy, fully equipped with the right skills, knowledge, and competencies that will enable them to formulate and implement African solutions for African challenges. With the continent becoming more and more urbanized, there is a critical need for enhanced infrastructure. How does one close the infrastructure gap? Addressing the infrastructure gap is more than a necessity. Across Africa, only 16% of all roads are paved compared to 58% in South Asia. These shortfalls represent huge costs to business and to people. These investments are critical for growth to be sustained and broadened. Along with infrastructure, building institutions matter and imply governance, transparency, and sound economic frameworks. Africa has tremendous potential with mineral reserves, and these resources can be instrumental in relieving the large infrastructure constraint. Transparency helps increase accountability and ensure that these resources are harnessed for the benefit of all. It can accelerate diversification, employment creation, and support further regional integration. Technological innovation offers great possibilities by supporting global integration, improve productivity, and foster inclusion. Harnessing its power effectively and efficiently is the challenge, and we'll need the sole resource to carry out research that is creative, innovative, and in most developing countries, those resources are scarce and have to be supplied by governments. Nations that have excelled at innovation have benefited from substantial government investment, especially in building higher quality, higher education systems, and in the training of outstanding young minds in IT, science, engineering, and related fields. Ladies and gentlemen, Africa's demographic dividend cannot be realized without enhanced equity and representation across society, including senior academic leadership. The system won't reform itself without being challenged to change the status quo by policymakers, institutional governance, and a growing body of female academics putting themselves forward and taking up their seats in the boardrooms of academia. Africa's greatest potential is its people, and key for the region to fully capture the dividends from population growth. 1 percentage point increase in the working age population can boost GDP growth by 0.5% point. For this to happen, good jobs need to be created in the private sector. Today, 20% of Africans find work in the formal sector. This must change, and with wider access to quality education, healthcare, and infrastructure services, it can change. Which brings me to the topic that is close to my heart, women. I know that most of the women in Africa cannot afford not to work, but when they do, they are mostly employed in informal activities. We all know what this means: low productivity, low incomes, low prospects. We also know that constraints access to education, credit, and markets. The gains to be made by overcoming these constraints are immense, particularly through girls' education. By some estimates, the economic loss in developing countries from the education gap between girls and boys could be as high as $90 billion a year, almost as much as the infrastructure gap for the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. Furthermore, there is a gross underrepresentation of women in science, technology-related courses, and professions. The gender divide is, however, profound at higher education level. Science and technology degrees have an average of 30 to 40% less female students, and yet equitable access must be at the heart of any modern education system. It is becoming increasingly clear that investment in science, technology, innovation is no longer an option. The sustainable development of Africa's R&D will require long-term and increased government investment in S&T so that we can nurture human capital and create a cadre of current and future scientists who are equipped to take on the multifaceted challenges confronting our continent. And the few that have been trained have already left the continent through brain drain. Ladies and gentlemen, this trend has to be reversed in order to allow Africa to take a rightful place in a fully integrated global economy. Harnessing new technologies, promoting research and development, translating academic research through entrepreneurship, appropriate IP are all ways and means of promoting productivity, employment opportunity, and the ability to move up the production value chain. Yet, to achieve this enhanced productivity, the science and technology gap must be bridged imperatively. To become more competitive, there is an urgent need to expand trade, not just with Europe or Asia or even the US, but intra-Africa trade, which is now a reality through the AFCFTA. There is also a need to remove barriers to enter new markets. Africa must expand knowledge and expertise in science and technology. The quality of the higher education in African countries will also depend on the quality of the science education, not forgetting mathematics. This necessarily calls for the capacity building of science teachers, as well as enabling research on national policies for STI at all levels of the education system, and also leverage Africa's research diaspora. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings me to another important point, the need to establish a strong link with industry and the private sector. The link with technology and the economy can no longer be overlooked. This is one of the reasons as to why higher education needs to be increasingly relevant. This strong link can be started through sandwich programs, as this is an excellent way of ensuring that the student is graduating with the necessary and relevant skills